I am recording.
I am working with amateurs.
Yes.
3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, hello. This is episode with Ignacy.
And I'm Corey Thompson from Dice Tower Now, Dice Tower Dish.
And this is Stephen Bonacore, the Podfather of Gaming. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 276, and we're recording it on May 10th, 2023. Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network, and Tom Vassell is a very happy man today. Ignacy is a very sad man, and he's crying. Ignacy, you can show people you're crying. Board Games Insider did not win the Golden Geek Award for Best Podcast. In fact, we weren't even nominated, which is really kind of sad. I mean, we were nominated. We weren't the runner-up there. However, let's take solace in the fact that Tom had to look at my face on the front page of Board Game Geek for 2 weeks. In fact, my face times 2 as I was on the front page of Board Game Geek because I was on the Board Game Geek podcast with Ignacy, with Candace Harris. And then Candace and I launched our new show on BGG called The Quad. So you can go watch that. We'll talk a little bit about that. Tom, again, is happy.
I think
not happy.
He spent most of his time watching my new channel. So, above board with our cool new launch videos dropped on this Monday.
Which we're going to talk about coming up when we get to your stuff. All right, you know what? We'll change the order. You really got to tell us about Above Board because I saw the videos you dropped, and I, of course, subscribe to Above Board TV on YouTube. It's absolutely astonishing what you guys are doing. Tell us about the project and specifically about these crazy new videos.
Oh, thanks. I didn't mean to cut in line, but
all right.
As long as we're self-promoting, I'm okay with that. So, no, we launched Above Board TV, which is our new high-end kind of sketch comedy YouTube channel that I've been talking up for a little while. It launched on Monday the 8th. We dropped 3 videos at launch. The whole story is that we did a television-style 1-hour lifestyle show in 2019 called Above Board. And it, through various things, we have 6 of these 1-hour episodes. We've been chopping them up and putting little funny pieces of them up on YouTube now. So 2 of the videos are interviews from that television show. But the big one is we played board games while skydiving. So
Yes.
Our cast member, Leaf, went skydiving, watched the video. It's gotten over 1,000 views in the first day. So we're excited for having a soft launch and not talking about it too much. But we are planning on dropping videos every Monday and Thursday, with the Thursday video kind of being a follow-up. So if you want to learn some more kind of funny stuff about Bop It and the Bop It guy, that's going to happen on Thursday. Anyway, Above Board TV every Monday and Thursday. So hopefully we can keep this going.
Yeah, I hope people out there subscribe to that channel after subscribing to the Podfather Gaming channel and Ignacy's channel, of course, because we've been out there longer. But it was amazing watching the guy skydive while attempting to play various games. And it really, really, really happened with multiple skydives. Ignacy, what's going on at Portal Games? Anytime you want to talk, Ignacy.
We are recovering after the Game Fund campaign for Forgal. As with every crowdfunding campaign, there are lots of effort, lots of energy, lots of additional hours spent answering questions and preparing some additional content, especially for the campaign. But the campaign is over. As I said last time, we had over 2,000 backers. In the end, it was 2,500, something like that. So quite okay. We are now preparing the game. So now is the next stage to prepare all the files to print. We will, of course, update in this podcast and in the dedicated updates about the progress of this. So fans are happy. We will open a late pledge later, etc., etc. But basically, Forgal, our big project for this year, is over, and now we can look at our retail releases and retail games that are prepared for this year. In May, we are releasing 51st State Ultimate Edition. Once again, guys, you need to have this game in your collection. It's amazing. It's my card game. A long time in the industry and still very, very good game. For those who already have the game, I mean Polish fans, because we already released it in Poland, and for the backers, lots of good opinions, lots of good feedback. So I appreciate the feedback, and I strongly recommend to check it out. 51st State Ultimate Edition in May in stores, and the fifth expansion for 11. How do you say? Do you say 11 or do you say 11?
11 usually.
11, 11, like Ignacy.
Or 11.
11.
Or 11.
Oh, no, now you confuse me. No?
Depends on what area of the country you come from in the United States.
So the fifth expansion for 11 will be also released here in May. And the 11, as I said in a previous podcast, apparently there are some people who care about the football and the soccer in America because the game is selling very well. We have restocks from the distributor, so it makes me very, very happy. And from some retailers that work with us directly as well. So 11, very successful release for us, so I'm very, very happy with that. In June, we'll release the army that was already released in Europe and in Poland. I think it's a Death Breath, but I'm not, I will double check. But we will have a new release of the army that was not released in distribution in America yet. It was only in our web store, so I will put information about this in the next episode. And very sad and very great news for me. No Man's Land, the new expansion for 51st State that is going to be released along with 51st State in May, is sold out on our level. So
Wow.
on our level, it's sold out. So distributors bought it from us, obviously from distributors. The stores have to buy it, and then you, our customers, have to buy it from the stores. So, but on my side, on my invoices, on my inventory, it is sold out. And of course, this is very, very nice for me. So I appreciate distributors who recognize that the new expansion for 51st State is something that they are interested in. So this is very, very good. And as always, I recommend check out ignacytrzewicek.com. I'm back to writing after the Thorgal campaign. So new essays and articles on my website every Friday. So basically, as you can see, a rather slow period in Portugal.
Yeah.
Like, we are recovering after Thorgal. We have a new game released in May, but besides that, not much happening.
Nothing going on. Nothing at all.
Boring.
Boring stuff. So over here at the Podfather of Gaming, I'm just going to plug a couple of the great pieces of streaming that I've been watching lately, and some of the stuff that I've talked about in the past. The Ted Lasso season is back on, at least in the US. Ignacy, are you getting Ted Lasso again in Poland?
I'm getting sales of 11 from Ted Lasso.
There you go.
And yes, every Wednesday I'm watching episode. Obviously, yes.
That show just does.
Such a good show.
Does not disappoint. I'm very happy that Ignacy has in the past called me the Ted Lasso of board gaming, because he is so inspirational in his outlook on life and stuff like that. And again, even if you're not into football or soccer as it is, such good characters, such well written show. Very, very impressed. It just continues to be beautiful. And on that same level, if you have any connection to New York City at all, if you live there, the culture or interest, you got to watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's just amazing, and it's all about the Jewish living in New York, but all with this woman who's become a stand-up comic in New York, and her trials and tribulations. Speed comedy is the way. You literally have to listen to it because the lines are just so fast thrown out at you. The stand-up comedy is funny, but just the way that the family and friends interact with each other are amazing. I can't talk more highly about the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and it's in its last season, so it's a great time to binge the whole thing if you were not familiar with it already. Upcoming, the UKGE is coming up. So, Ignacy, are you going to be there?
I will be there.
Oh, okay. Well, I have a feeling that maybe a recording is in our future. How about that?
Oh, I'm going to miss it.
Well, why don't you get on a plane and come? I mean,
I'll just drive on over.
So Ignacy and I will be there to see you. We can maybe work on some kind of meetup in the booth. I haven't even thought about that, but I was going to was going to mention to all of the British fans out there that please reach out to me in some way, and let's see if we can go get a pint of wonderful ale together. I love the beer in Great Britain, so please reach out. Let's hang out. I'm staying right there on campus at the NEC, as they call it, the something exhibit convention. I don't know what it means. Yeah,
place, yeah.
It's something like the NEC, Birmingham NEC. So right over there, I'm at the Moxie. So please just reach out. Let's get together. It'll be a lot of fun. And let's now get over to the event deck. So speaking of Tom's excitement and Ignacy sadness, and maybe a little bit of sadness on the rest of us, the 17th annual Golden Geek Awards have finally happened, and we did not win. Why did we not win? Ignacy, was there a problem with the show? Corey, it's probably your fault because you're new on the show.
I don't know. I think I'm the reason we got nominated.
There you go. Well, let's give a shout out, first of all, to the best podcast of the year. And that was This Game is Broken, which features, of course, Matthew Jude, who was our editor for the longest time. So congratulations to Matthew, Rodney, Paula. It's a very well-deserved win. They are a fantastic podcast. Other big games that won. What do we have here? The best two-player game, Splendor Duel. Best artwork, Flamecraft. Best cooperative, Return to Dark Tower. This one I loved. The best innovative game, Cat in the Box. Cat in the Box is a game I play so much, and I think it is an amazing marriage of theme and trick taking, and I just love the way this game plays out. So that was
also won Best Light Game of the Year. So
won both.
Really, lots of praises for Cat in the Box.
Yep. Which was the final best game? Is there? I don't think
they
do
medium. Medium game of the year was Heat Pedal to the Metal. So great deck builder racing game, and then the heavy game of the year was Carnegie.
There we go. Party game, Ready Set Bet. So a lot of these games I'm happily playing right now. I should say. It's really good stuff on here. What do we got next? Wizards of the Coast reports sales up, profits down. So sales of Hasbro's Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming segment were up, but their profits were down in Q1. Hasbro reported its Q1 earnings release showing these figures. Sales were up 12% to $263 million in Q1. And that increase was led by tabletop games, which is good to hear. But their operating profits were actually down 28%, which the decline was attributed to investments in product development and personnel, higher production cost, advertising expense, and so on. So these guys, of course, operate in a strata that is so much higher than any of the companies like Portal and Stronghold and almost every company. I mean, even Asmodee doesn't operate necessarily in the strata that these guys do. It's interesting to see, though, that they had higher sales, at least in Q1. I don't remember what they said for last year, where Asmodee reported last year's overall, they were down 5% in North America.
I have a question, and because in Q1, and to be precise, in January, we have this massive problem with Dungeons & Dragons. You guys all remember OGL issue. And we, here in a podcast, we expected sales of Dungeons & Dragons going down, the community super angry at the Wizards of the Coast, etc., etc. The results of these problems will be seen in Q2, or they will too small to actually be shown here in this quarter?
That's a very, very good question.
There's
we don't
no
know.
mention of it in the article. They specifically talk about Magic the Gathering and that Magic was up 16%, but there was no mention of D&D. I'm gonna guess D&D didn't have a significant impact at this point.
It's a very interesting question. So I guess this is a good thing to see. what's the future going to hold? It might have been much too late in the quarter, right?
It may be the case that the
yeah.
community is offended, stops buying, but you see these results in quarter two, or they already listed in quarter one. Like my question is, was a delay in a results for such a big company? Like I know but my go very fast because I'm a smaller company, so I have the results immediately on my table. For the big corporation, was a delay with these results.
Yeah, we're going to watch this to make sure we see what happens in quarter two to see if they mention D&D and what those sales / profits are. This next article, I'm going to mention it for like 25 seconds because Ignacy and I have talked about IDW publishing a number of times, and I promised I would never bring them back up again. But I love the fact that IDW Media Holdings, which is a public company, reported that they are cutting its workforce by 39% and voluntarily delisting themselves from the New York Stock Exchange American side, replacing its CEO. It's a complete disaster of this company, which had a fairly big foray into board gaming, but literally lost millions and millions of dollars in board gaming. But their media side seemed to be holding well. They have a lot of other things that this company does. Apparently, no, their entire company is in jeopardy of going under. So that's it. I'm bringing it up. This is the last time, Ignacy, that we're going to talk about IDW Media.
I don't
Holdings.
believe you. For
I
you,
don't-
IDW. For
think
you,
so.
IDW is like for me Gamma. You love this news.
Do we have any good Gamma news? I just feel like we should talk about Gamma a bunch.
We'll try to get to some good Gamma news. Okay.
There you go.
Or bad Gamma news. So the next one, Corey, you threw in here, which was very interesting. It's about Steeped Games.
So Steeped Games is a small company, and they put out the board game Chai, which did well. It's got really lovely pieces. It's kind of an elegant, simple tea-making game. Recently, there was rumor that Steeped was having some problems. They had a Kickstarter for Chai Tea for Two, and they've kind of ghosted the Kickstarter for a bit. Nobody really knows what's going on with it. It's overdue, and there's not a lot of talk coming from the company. The other big one was Steeped Games had advertised pretty heavily that they had Reiner Knizia's Through the Desert last year. They showed it off at Gamma. They showed a box cover, but just recently they lost that license and it went to All Play, who's the new branded version of BoardGameTables.com. So we just noticed on a corporate listing that Steeped Games has been dissolved for non-compliance. As of April 20th, 2023, the open company databases are showing Steeped Games as dissolved. So there's no official word that I've seen out there, but it looks like Steeped Games may be no more.
It would be interesting to post someplace on Board Game Geek to see if they would make a statement. Did they? By the way, this comes from they're a Canadian company. This comes from at least this listing has to do with the fact that they have their address, their registered address. They're a corporation in Canada. Have they delivered on everything they said they were going to deliver, or is there any kind of controversy
Chai
there?
Tea for Two, as far as I know, still has not delivered.
Okay.
That was a successful Kickstarter, and for a while now they've been very, very quiet on that Kickstarter. The backers have been worried about that one.
Yep, doesn't look good then in that case, that's for sure. All right, we have Chip Theory Games makes an Industry Champion Award and gives it to Seppi Yun.
Seppi Yun.
Seppi Yun. What is
Absolutely. So I found this really interesting. It's from their official page. They say Chip Theory Games is proud to announce a creation and inaugural presentation of their Industry Champion Award. This year's recipient, Seppi Yun, has been an incredible force for building community in the Minneapolis and St. Paul gaming scene. Along with tremendous passion, generosity, and positivity, Seppi has helped out Chip Theory Games by connecting our company with several fantastic employees who have gone on to make significant and important roles in the making of award-winning games. So I know just from talk that Seppi is just only talked about in the highest of praises. Everybody's friends with
Yeah.
Seppi. Seppi gets everybody together, both in the Toronto area and in the Minneapolis area. Just everybody thinks the highest of Seppi.
Yeah, I have read
So
him.
I found it really interesting that Chip Theory is starting kind of a who's who is champion the industry, who deserves this humanitarian award. And Chip Theory has enough finances, glitz, and glamour around them that I think this might stick and become a thing. So congratulations to Seppi. I just thought this was a really nice thing.
So they're also going to be granting him a $10,000 award to assist with ocean freight costs for his next game, Conquest Princess. That's a pretty interesting way of doing this.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that game coming out under Chip Theory? I mean, this is just interesting that Chip Theory
No, I
games.
think it's completely independent. So it has a game found preview up now. So the campaign has not started yet. It's a co-op bag builder. So go ahead and check it out.
So Ignacy, maybe awards do pay off. I mean, if they're going to give away money,
I'm not sure I would put this in exactly the same category as the patting each other on the back awards. I'm kind of with Ignacy that most of these board game awards,
well,
with the exception of the Spiel, don't have a great impact.
we'll be getting to that kind of stuff in our question in just a little while.
Oh.
The Flat River Group and FunForge, they're partnering up. FunForge has partnered with Flat River Group. What's going on there?
Yeah, so FunForge has kind of been in trouble for a little while. There was a lot of stories in June of 22 that FunForge publicly announced they were in financial troubles and they were not going to fulfill their ongoing Kickstarters. What they actually said is they were putting everything on hold. They were focusing on retail sales. And when the money built up enough, then they would continue. And at that point, they were mostly done with the Nemiji fulfillment. That's the sequel to Antoine Bauza's Tokaido. And they had a new one. They had a couple Kickstarters going on that they said were just on hold. And that went on for a little while. And then all of a sudden they kind of showed up again. The Kickstarters started up again. And most recently at Gamma, which is, the best convention ever. Such a good organization. At Gamma, they had a very strong presence. They were showing off Tokaido Duo. So the news here is that this is where I think their new energy probably came from, is FunForge partnered with Flat River Group for exclusive distribution of their English language games in the US and Canada. So I don't know if you had any more insight on Flat River and their consolidation company.
We've talked about Flat River a lot in the past. Flat River Distribution bought Impressions, which is another consolidator like PSI. We've talked about them. And Aldo Giosi was the owner, and he ran Impressions through that merger, and he's just now left the company, retired, but he's not retired because he's doing other things.
He bought Kubla Khan.
He refuses to retire, unlike me. But yeah, that's a very
there you go.
So yeah, so they're a big company, and they've been acquiring. Unlike TSI, who focuses on the model of consolidation as well as warehousing and sales to distribution to Amazon on your behalf, right? And into the specialty market, the book market. The Flat River has been buying publishers. They've been buying consolidators. They've been buying people to expand what they do. So it's an interesting, different model than like a PSI. Now let's get over to strategy and tactics. So we got something to announce here, which I hope that we should have mentioned at the top of the show, but we're announcing this so the people who listen to strategy and tactics can now get this piece of information, and it's big. We're running a contest. We're like, the questions that we've been taking in our guild, they're just like a couple of months old at this point. So we need more questions out there. So here's the contest for everybody listening or watching. The contest is if you post a question in our guild for strategy and tactics, and you know where to do that. It's been years, so just put it in the right place. You get 1 entry into the contest. How many questions should we allow people to put in there? Just 1, or maybe we should allow for a few? What do you think? Like, but it's got to be.
We need questions, so let's allow them to ask a few questions, okay?
Sure, let's do 3 questions, but they got to be in 3 different posts, because that's how I'm going to be able to figure out what's going on here. So if you post, you can post up to 3 questions in 3 different posts in our strategy and tactics question area on Board Game Geek in the Guild, and you get 1 entry for each one. And what it's going to be the prizes? Well, the prizes are going to be, and ask Ignacy if this was okay. Did I do this right? 1 for a USA winner, and then 1 for anywhere else. Does that make sense? Or should we be North America on that first thing? What do you want to do there?
I agree.
You like it? All right. So this, since most of our listeners come from USA, we'll go with this, right? So it's going to be 1 game from the Portal Games catalog for a USA winner, 1 game from the Portal Games catalog to a winner someplace else. And that's probably going to balance each other out in the total number of entries there. And 1 piece of Podfather merchandise for a USA winner, and 1 for a winner anywhere else. And Corey?
And it's not that this was jumped on me an hour ago or anything, but no, I am more than happy to throw in, and I feel like I should say I throw this in for the loser, but I will throw in Corey merchandise, and if I can get a hold of it, some above board merchandise.
There you go. So we're going to figure out how to
throw in something good.
Yeah. So as the listeners should know, right, that I have a Podfather of Gaming merchandise store on Etsy, also on another platform for the embroidered stuff. So the winner can pick from any 1 piece that's showing there. And Corey's got one that got put up there by a good friend of ours, Marion, the Corey Chorus, fans of Corey. It was a fun thing. He'll do the same thing. And maybe by the time this ends, maybe there'll be some above board shirts, so you can pick that instead of a Corey Chorus. So there'll be six prizes here, which is not bad. So your chances of winning are going to be pretty good. So go post questions. Make sure you put them in the right thing. Up to 3 questions. I will find you. I promise. Computers are easy to find out if you're cheating. So up to 3 questions you can post. And it's easy to post a question. It's easy to do it. It's easy to come up with a question. It could be about our personal lives, right? I mean, that's cool too. We don't, we don't care. It could be about what we like to do in the other times. It'd be the games, whatever
Even
you
really
want.
does smell like sandalwood.
We ask you questions every week, and we don't struggle at all.
A little bit of struggle, but not much struggle.
I struggle a little bit.
All right, now let's get to some of these great questions that we have here. And the first one has Ignacy's name written all over it. It's from Ron Graves. He's at Buckaroo. Apologies if this has been asked before. And that's okay. You can ask questions that have been asked before. But, try to make them different. As a longtime listener, look forward to each episode, and I do not recall hearing this discussed before. Was there ever a time during your board game publishing career that you seriously thought you were going to have to cut your losses and either sell the company or simply shut the doors? I am sure Ignacy felt that way almost daily, given his pessimistic Slavic DNA. But the question is for the first time that the business really looked in jeopardy. Follow up, what pushed you through? What was that title that was the hit in multiple reprints? Your personality or your pride not to fail or something. So I mean, it's for both of us, right? Ignacy, you ever had I guess we all struggle with that. Like, is this worth it? It's so much stress. Was there a point at some point where you thought, I got to throw this out? And I know you had a long career and, and just like doing stuff like 20 years ago. Did you think?
Yeah. Just to remind everyone here in Poland, on our Polish YouTube, there is a series of videos about the history of Portal games. It's only 40 videos, each of them 1 hour long, so it's only 40 hours of watch time. And I'm talking history of Portal games. I'm discussing the past and the problems at the very beginning. And yes, 20 years ago there was no internet, no Facebook, no TikTok, and I was struggling to run a business and do a game company in the country. There was no games. So there was a difficult times, and yes, there were a couple of moments when the company was no money, basically bankrupt, and I was not working for a couple of weeks or even months, and I was done. And then I was getting back to work, getting back to try once again. Each time I had 3 times. 3 times the company was not working for a couple of weeks or months due to the problems, and each time it was friends and fans who motivated me and said, "Ignacy, don't give up. We need you." And somehow they put me back to work. So each time it was very close friends who were fans of what I was doing and what I was putting in the industry, and they were just shaking me, "Ignacy, go back to work. Don't give up. You will do it." And I did it, and here I am today. So yes, there was a very difficult moment. I had to sell my car to pay debts, etc., etc. But I made it. So yeah, if you are working in a niche industry, you will struggle. That's for sure. Especially back then when there was no social media and smart ways to promote your business.
Right.
In all seriousness, the talks that you've given about the early days of Portal and things that happened, they're some of the best talks I've been to at conventions. So listeners, if you have a chance to hear Ignacy just tell these wild stories about the early days of Portal, it's well worth it.
It is. They are amazing. On my behalf, my struggle was I never thought about shutting down the company. My struggle was, how could I manage doing the company and working the full-time job? And it became, and all I did was it got to critical mass, and I'm like, okay, we're leaving the highly paying good job with security. But is it secure when you work for corporate America? Is it really? You're gonna leave that, and I'm gonna do this full time. And at that point, of course, I never looked back. Jeremiah Faustino, who's at Dom0 and Faust. Minis versus standees is very subjective and contentious. Personally, I like my minis, but particularly for dungeon crawlers or dudes on a map. If they're just worker placement pawns or scorers, standees are fine, or wood. But for buildings, and here's the question, would it be cheaper to make them cardboard constructs, papercraft, like the dice towers? For example, Foundations of Rome, maybe even tapestry. Granted, I'm into these things, but what do you think cost-wise and marketability? I guess what he's asking, if for building, I guess he's talking about buildings because he mentions Foundations of Rome. So would it make sense to have the buildings out of, like, punchboard? Is that something that's doable, possible, maybe? I'll take it quickly first because I didn't talk much. Thank you, Corey.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh out loud.
Corey, why don't you answer the question? What do you think? Would that work out, Corey, if there was buildings made out of punchboard?
I think it would. There have been several things that have punchboard, but it's a pretty well-known fact that if you have a Kickstarter, especially, if you put minis in there, it boosts up your return tremendously. So minis are they are really hot. I do hear this current kind of resurgence of standees, not so much for buildings and little landscape elements, but for games that have a million bad guys. People have talked about this with the original Gloomhaven and with Oathsworn, that this is usually people who are not painting their minis. They like having colorful standees that are easily recognizable for what monsters they are. So as far as cost-wise, I can't speak to that too much. I'm going to assume that standees and punchboard buildings are going to be cheaper, but again, it's going to be the return. So you have better opinion on that than I.
Ignacy, what do you think about cardboard buildings?
Not good idea. First of all, you need to build them when you buy the game because you have to construct them. So you are already losing like 70% of the customers who will not do it, or they will destroy it in the process, and you will have replacement parts. So this is the first thing. And the second, please show me 3, maybe 2, maybe even 1 successful Kickstarter that has no minis but standees. Like everyone says, "Oh, I don't like plastic, I don't need minis." So show me. Top 150 Kickstarters of all time, all of them has a minis, no standees. So this is a myth, this is the urban legend that people don't like minis. We love them. Considering either you can get fancy mini or you have to build your own mini from the cardboard, no, it doesn't make any sense.
So I think that you're right. Everybody, what you're saying is right. But for a game that has a building or a couple, like say it was like a small castle defense game, and you had something in the center to make it look pretty, that's potentially to have one thing there. But if you had to create, think about Foundations of Rome. It's got 40 plastic miniatures per player times 5 plus the monuments. Building them would take a week. Storing them would take the same amount of space. So you don't solve any problem except for you don't use except for the cost comes down and you don't use the plastics. So but you completely will destroy the experience because it's kind of fun to build the things, but that's going to get old pretty quickly if you're building 250 of them. So no.
I know specifically with Foundations of Rome, originally it was designed as a cardboard polyomino game. It was all just flat polyomino pieces to begin with, and the decision was made pretty early to really bling it up. And I think Arcane just hit it out of the park with that.
They hit it out of the park, and they just took a great game design and they made its table presence look just unbelievable. I speak so highly of it, of course.
I don't have a data. Maybe I should try to get this data so we have for the future reference. But the campaign for the Frostpunk, a very hot game these days, the base game of the Frostpunk has flat cardboard pieces for the buildings. Then you were able to buy add-on buildings made from the big wooden blocks with the stickers on them. So you have like a 3D dimensional wooden pieces with the stickers, and then you were able to buy additional add-on with the plastic miniatures. So there was like free Frostpunk.
Frostpunk. Okay.
Yeah. So 3 levels of representation of the buildings on the board, and the customers were choosing which one they prefer. I can try to reach the publisher because they are from Poland and ask how many pledges were for which thing, like what was most popular. I assume the fancy plastic miniatures were the most popular.
That would be very interesting to find out if you if you have a contact there. That is a very good one. Jeremiah Baker, who's at Fancy Pants, love that one. He asks us, great question. If both of you, all 3 of us, and Tom Vassell were dropped off on an isolated island for 1 month and had to bring 3 board games each to win, to annoy Tom, and for everybody to have fun, what 3 games would you be bringing? Anybody want to jump in here with this?
Oh man, it's a tricky one. I think that I'd have to bring Phase 10 just to annoy Tom. It's been pretty loudly announced that it's his least favorite game, and I'll admit it, I play Phase 10 every once in a while. It wastes the time, and it's an interesting early old school card game, classic style card game. So Phase 10 would be great just to put in Tom's face and make him play it all the time.
I would bring every version of Monopoly I had to annoy Tom, or
Vicious Fishes. That's a heck of a game.
It's actually not. I hate to say it. It's not a bad game. I played it. He pitched it to me. He quasi pitched it to me as for Stronghold way early. He said like, I don't think you're gonna like it, but let's play it. Let's play my game. Yeah, it was not a bad game. It just doesn't have, it's just a game. It doesn't have a lot to do. It's a good game though. Ignacy, anything to want to beat Tom or anything, or have fun with the 3 of us?
Could we bring the game Nothing Personal, designed by Tom Vassell, and during the gameplay reviewing it all the time and complaining on the game?
That's a good one.
Right now, Nothing Personal is not attached to Tom Vassell anymore as of the most recent printing.
That is true. He no longer.
I have the original Kickstarter. I backed it back then, so I can bring the copy.
I think that'd be great.
That's great.
I wouldn't bring anything to win. I don't win anything.
I'm going to quickly just take the next question from Jeremiah Brahmer, who just riffed on that one. He said in response to Jeremy's question, he said, and the opposite, if both of you, all of us, were dropped off on a desert island for a month and had to bring 3 games to lose or to annoy Stephen and Ignacy and Corey, Which one would, since we're going the annoying route, which one would annoy?
For no one to have fun, we can play Monopoly.
Oh, Monopoly is great.
For not having fun, yes, it's great.
It's great
No, we
for
bring
not having fun.
diplomacy. Bring diplomacy, and we see who on the island dies.
Oh, that's actually, well, yeah. I mean, you could play it with 4 players. Sure, why not? That'll be kind of fun. We'll all become less friends after playing a game of diplomacy for a while. All right, everybody, let's move on to play testing. So last week I asked a very intricate, complicated, long question, and that was about role playing. I said, if you're a role player, what is the choice that you would make in this situation with your role playing group? And given that you've been playing in a campaign for 2.5 years with the same group and DM that you love, a cataclysmic event occurred in the campaign, shunting you back 10,000 years into the past, which could viably be the satisfying conclusion to the campaign. Then, if your DM gave the players these options, which one would you choose? Continue the campaign in the past, have 1 or more sessions to show an epilogue to close out the campaign, and then start a new one, of course. Call the event the end of the campaign and restart new campaign. And then if you chose, to continue, would you choose the same role-playing system or a completely new one? Because there's just some great ones out there. So I needed people to choose A, B, or C, and then if B or C, D or E. Not too confusing, right? So did you guys look at some of these answers? There's a lot of interesting answers here.
I did, but I can't believe you put like an SAT question into the question for the listeners. Is it A, B, B but not D, C but not E, D and E?
Yeah, yes, I made it very confusing. All right, I'll pick a couple of there. So Evan Halberd, he says, depending on if your DM has a strong desire to continue in the world or not. And again, they said it was something that he gave us the complete option. So it wasn't really on him. The fact that they're asking might mean that they're hoping to move into something else, but would continue if the players wanted to. So I'll probably see what the DM wants. But Evan, no, he was completely throwing it back to us. He loves playing with us, and he just wanted us to do it and have the decision. And Elena, who often contributes, especially on the YouTube channel, thank you, Elena, she says A. She wants to see what happens, continuing 10,000 years in the past. Anything else, guys?
I found Derek O's answer interesting because it's a way that I usually don't think. He said B and D, but what I found the most interesting was his reason why not A. He said having your characters leveled up enough over 2.5 years that no matter what you face in the past, you will beat them with ease. Oh, it's time to start a new campaign with their offspring. And I was kind of thinking that it would be nice to have the same characters because you build such an attachment. And it's interesting to hear this opposite side of it, that the characters are too powerful. It's time to move on and start afresh. And I had not thought about that side of it.
I like his final discussions. He's too old for change. He doesn't want to do a new system, which specifically I've always said that about myself. I'm a D&D player, and that's what I want to play in. And I did Pathfinder, which is Pathfinder 1, which is basically the same as D&D 3.5 plus. But now I'm playing D&D 5, change, but still D&D. But now I'm into the One Ring 2nd edition. Haven't started it yet, but I will get into a campaign of the One Ring 2nd edition. It's going to happen this year. Ignacy, any question, any answers you found there interesting?
I can answer myself because I was not in the episode when it was asked. So for me, I'm a DM for years, obviously. So I would definitely prefer to start something new. I love changing systems. I'm opposite to you, as I now understand. So I have like this long list of role-playing games that I'm going to play in my life yet. So I'm playing right now Cold City role-playing game, and then next year I'm going to play Aliens RPG, and next year I'm going to play another role-playing game. So I'm switching the systems, switching the settings. So when I have a conclusion, end of the story, I said, thank you, that was awesome story, the story is over. And we jump to a completely different role-playing game, like Deadlands, Legend of the Five Rings, etc., etc. So for me, the season is not 2.5 years, it's rather 1 year. And after 1 year, I'm changing the setting completely and a new role-playing game and a new experience. And I just backed a new role-playing game yesterday, and I don't even remember the name, but it was very tempting and interesting. So, yes, I love new system and new settings.
That's I guess maybe that's coming from the designer mindset and all that, because so I hate learning rules. That's kind of a thing. Even board games, I just hate I got to learn new rules. So I've always been like, well, I like this, so why don't I? But I've now become tired of rules heavy stuff, especially when you get to higher levels in a campaign. The amount of rules that you have to know, and spellcasters have to deal with like hundreds, it's crazy. So that's why I'm dying to try a rules light system in a magic light world of Lord of the Rings, right? It's a very magic light world.
I'm really just fascinated with the new generation of role-playing games that are breaking all of the things that I thought were set in stone for role-playing. Games where you discuss the state of the characters and the player is very, very separate from the characters. You're manipulating them rather than embodying them. Things with no dice, no statistics, that are more storytelling. The newer role-playing systems that are keyword-based rather than dice-based, where you have certain keywords attached to your character, and if those come up, they give you more advantage to what's going on in the world.
Wow.
I'm too old to really play them comfortably. I'm so set in that D&D mindset of numbers and hit points and dice, but it just fascinates me how many different rule sets are out there.
What a great discussion. I mean, it's great to see that we who obviously are board gamers really still also have this great role-playing background and experience, and it's very different from the three of us. So I'm very interested in this, and I'm glad I asked the question to our audience. But Corey, I believe, right, has a question, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, my name's Corey. I'm the new guy.
So this was actually a Corey / Ignacy question, wasn't it?
It was an Ignacy question.
Okay.
I just wrote it down, so I got credit. So I'll say it's a Corey question.
What's the question, Ignacy? Or somebody?
The question is, with all the talk now of the Golden Geek Awards that we've been talking about a lot, it's the general question of, have you ever purchased a board game simply because you heard or saw that it received an award? So how much impact do these awards really make? Does it sway you?
And I will already answer this question with the, maybe not anecdote, but like a little story. So back then, when I was just learning about the board games, I was discovering the world of board games. And back then, my grandmother lived in Germany. I visited my grandmother in Germany, and I went to the mall, and I see board games, and I see the big pile of board games and a big logo of the award, and I bought the game because I knew nothing exactly. Back then, the game I bought was called Zug Zug, which is Ticket to Ride German edition. Back then, on this very month, so luckily it was Spiel des Jahres month, and the game got the Spiel des Jahres, and there was a piles of Zug Zug, Ticket to Ride. I approached the pile, bought the game, knew nothing about it. It was a great decision. So exactly why they are giving Spiel des Jahres, big piles of these games in all malls and stores in Germany. You just go there, buy it. You know nothing about the game, but it got the award. It must be good. That is my small story from Germany back then, many, many years ago.
Corey, have you ever?
No. I've pretty much played the more obscure stranger board games since, I'm going to say, the late 70s, early 80s. I've just found games no one else has heard of. And I did not even really register that there were awards. Even the Spiel didn't register with me until I was writing news more consistently around 2012, 13, 14, somewhere around there. Then it was like, oh, there's all these awards, and I started noticing Spiel stickers and awards. But I don't think the two worlds ever crossed over for me. The games that I looked for were bizarre and unheard of, and other people didn't know. So the awards, I didn't know much about them until I was already buying games.
Yeah, and for me, it's simply that when I look at the awards and I see what's winning, and this, of course, especially the Spiel des Jahres, it'll always drag me to notice the game, even the less popular awards, notice the game more, and then try to potentially play it if it sounds like something that I want. So to me, it's more of, oh, let me play that game. Or, oh, I played that game, what a great choice that was. Or I played that game, how could they possibly put it there? So it's more of that situation.
Had a couple of those.
Yeah, where I see it, oh, yeah, let me try to play it. Or I see it, and I'm like, that's not for me. I get it, but it's not for me. So that's where I come from. Good question, guys. Why don't one of you, like Ignacy, since he knows how, Corey is incapable of doing this to my knowledge. Ignacy's gonna create a thread right now on Board Game Geek for you to answer this question. Please go to our guild on BGG and find our play testing thread for this question and post your answer to it. This is not the one that puts you into the contest, but while you're there, also throw some questions into that thread so you might win one of Ignacy's games, Bonacor's merchandise, or Corey's merchandise. In the meantime, let's get to the final scoring. Thank you so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts, or you can now watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. You want to be part of the podcast? You can just ask us questions for our strategy and tactics segment by posting them in the correct thread in our guild on Board Game Geek, and you might win a prize and also answer our question to you from our playtesting segment, also by going to the guild on Board Game Geek and looking for the thread with this episode's question. The websites are portalgamesus.com, podfathergaming.com, and dicetowerdish.com. We're all over social media. Please interact with us on Facebook. Please like our pages /BoardGamesInsider, /PortalGamesUS, and /PodfatherGaming. You can speak directly to Ignacy and Steven, and Corey, at PortalGamesUS, at PodfatherGaming.com, at DiceTowerDish, at DiceTowerNow, and the active YouTube channels, Portal Games Movies, the Podfather of Gaming. Ignacy's on TikTok, Portal Games US. We'd love to see you at an upcoming convention. UKGE, come on, we're going to be there. That's Bonacor and Ignacy, so let's make sure we see each other, get a beer, maybe we'll do a meetup. We'll work on that one for you.
I'll be at RageCon and
there you go.
KublaCon
is coming up too. That's like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And UKGE is like 3 weeks. So that's awesome. So go check out Corey at RageCon and KublaCon. Board Games Insider is professionally edited by Joshua Bowman from Tabletop Submarine Podcast. If you want him to edit your podcast, you can reach him at tabletopsubmarine@gmail.com. Also, that great voice you hear doing our intro, outro, and in-between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do your voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Gentlemen, that brings us to the close. Anybody have anything they want to mention here?
I will just say briefly that yesterday, today, and tomorrow, I am officially having death robot training. We bought a giant industrial robot that is our camera operator for the studio, and it has stickers all over it that if the robot is running and you go up and give it a hug, you will not come out of it well. So we are learning how to program our robot, how to not let the robot take over the world, and why it's a bad idea to put swords and knives in the robot's hands.
Oh my gosh.
So
I'm scared.
I'm
should
frightened.
Be scared. His name officially is Ichabod Crane because he looks like a giant crane. I like to refer to him as a violent Beauregard. But he is a giant death robot, and so far, he's my friend.
I'm glad you have a robot friend. Thank you for listening and watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
See y'all later.